Hello and welcome to another edition of The Stew with JT Brew. I'm your host, Justin Taylor at JT Orange on the X Machine. I'm here with my buddy Benny D at Ben Dyer 8 on Twitter next, where you can follow us. Week 10 college football. Here we go. You're in the stew.
You up on trades and why you move, you ain't designed to lose. Find you jumping over seemingly nothing, racking up points, makes the game a little more fun to watch. Can drop release, we started with the mock draft and now we making a mockery of the leaderboard. Quite obviously not a scrub, so start an institute, make evaluations like a commissioner do. It's to the point your wife make you watch in a different room. Update your roster and pick and choose when you get some news. Not much that we enjoy more than sifting through new statistics to make it to our end zones through different routes. Universities, institutes, down to homies who click in groups. I introduce you to the Stew with JT Brew.
Benny, hard to believe week 10 already in the college football season. Pretty wild. Got two games currently going on tonight. Right now, Louisiana up 20-17 on Texas State. Texas State in the red zone with about 10 minutes left in that game. And Louisiana Tech going against Sam Houston State. Sam Houston State 9-3 in that game. Were you on either one of those ones? I avoided both of them.
No, I was not involved. A couple of ugly games. I think Florida International already went final too. We should have done that because I keep talking about how bad New Mexico State is, and they got routed by Florida.
Yeah, 34-13. They ended up winning that one. Florida International was a 7-point favorite. That tells you how bad New Mexico is. 2-6. Florida International 3-6 with the win, and they were a 7-point favorite and they rolled. If you can bet against the Aggies most weeks, that is the way to do it. Couple games coming up as we're at that point of the year. We get Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night games. We're getting games damn near every night of the week. Tomorrow night we've got Liberty 5-1 against 4-3 Jackson State, and Western Kentucky 5-2 against 1-6 Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State pulling off the huge upset last week, getting their first win of the year and dumping the undefeated Liberty. Oh, Benny, I originally was going to be all over that game. I got crazy doing a bunch of things and ended up not getting the bet in. Was probably the greatest thing that happened to me because I was going to go big on Liberty. I just can't. That should have been an absolute blowout win. We talked about how they've kind of struggled all year, but man, Kennesaw State's been terrible. And the fact that they beat them, now I feel like I want to come back heavy on Western Kentucky this week. The 24.5-point favorites at home against Kennesaw State. I kind of want to jump on the Hilltoppers. In Liberty on the other side is a 2.5-point favorite against Jacksonville State. Liberty, man, it's tough sled putting money on them here recently.
Yeah, I mean, Liberty's been really not a good cover team all year. They've kind of snuck away with they should have been beat a couple of times. So I was definitely still shocked to see the team that actually did it was Kennesaw State because they are so bad. So that just goes to show you what that conference is all about. You got no clue what's going on in that conference. It's just some rough football.
Yeah, that thing's been wild. I think you got Sam Houston State lost 31-14 to Western Kentucky. I'm thinking I'm jumping on Western Kentucky in this one tomorrow night. I like them against Kennesaw State. I can't see them pulling up two monster upsets back-to-back weeks. So I do kind of like Western Kentucky in that one. It is a big spread at 24.5. Might put that one in a same game parlay and move that down just to here. If you do like some other games, Thursday night, Tulane versus Charlotte, 6-2 Tulane. They're a 16.5-point favorite over under 55.5. I do like Tulane in that game. So I might do a little two-teamer Western Kentucky and Tulane for our Wednesday, Thursday action. Give me a little something to pay attention to over the next two nights. And then Friday, two games I'm avoiding, but they got Georgia State versus Connecticut. Connecticut's a 7.5-point favorite right now, over under 48.5. And Florida Atlantic, South Florida currently a 3-point favorite in that game, over under 51.5. Both of those games are games I'm probably avoiding. Benny, you like anything in those, or are you staying away from them as well?
Those are tough ones. South Florida, I think I would probably lean them a little bit just because, we've been on Florida Atlantic. They've hurt us a couple times. And then I like your Tulane look there, though. Tulane's a pretty good team. I yeah, I know it's a road game, but man, Charlotte's not any good. That would
Yeah,
be
Charlotte's been
something to
bad.
look
They
at.
actually
Yeah,
played fairly tough last week and only lost by 5 to Memphis. Was probably one of their better games of the
yeah,
year. But Tulane has been pretty good offensively this year. They've been blowing people out. Last week, the real tough game at North Texas. I thought that one was going to be close. They ended up pulling that one out 45-37. So that was a close game, but I thought that would be close. I think they roll Charlotte in this one.
yeah, and that's a tough. Charlotte's right in that game the whole one last week and couldn't get the win, and so now they're back to you know that's just a tough one to come off of a big game against Memphis, who's a pretty good team, and to hang right in there, that's a big letdown, I think.
Yeah, let's jump in here on DraftKings. Let's pull up the bets and kind of run through some of these as you guys can see them there. If you're watching on YouTube on the screen, read these off to you. This one, I don't know what you think. Friday night game, we've been getting some good action. Boise State, UNLV, we were all over that game as being one of the better games of the week last week, and it was. That thing was all kinds of action in that game. If you were on all the GT props, you finally got screwed in that one. Is he
you,
finally
you
held
did,
in check in that game?
yeah.
Boise ended up getting the win 29-24, but GT had his lowest output of the year. He had just 128 yards rushing on 33 carries and 1 touchdown. So he was under on the touchdowns, under on the carries. So that was a tough one. Now they could come back 23.5-point favorites against San Diego State. San Diego State, a team that's been up and down this year. My guys, the Aztecs, I love to usually get on them, bet on them. 3-4 coming in this game, but they had Washington State on the ropes, and Washington
Mhm.
was able to beat them 29-26 with a late score. Boise State beat Washington State earlier this year 45-24, but Washington State was able to get a touchdown. Let me check real quick, with about 5 minutes left in that game to win, as they were down in that one. What do you think in this one? Do you think Boise State has it and puts them away 23.5-point favorite? The Aztecs have been up and down this year. A lot of close games all around this season for them, whether they're winning or losing. A lot of one-score games.
Yeah, I actually like Boise State. I feel like they got, the score was close in that game against UNLV, but it was pretty obvious Boise State was better. UNLV did a great job of kind of containing GT, but he still came up with some huge, short runs, but tough ones. A couple of big, like, fourth downs, big touchdown run. That was a, short yardage run, but man, he's a warrior, that guy. And I just feel like Boise State's going to come out of that game and go, well, we just beat the best team in our conference. They're probably the only team that has a chance of beating us. I just feel like they might just roll. And the quarterback for Boise State, I was impressed. Because he had to do some things he hasn't even had to do, in previous games, because they've just been able to hand the ball off to Genty and let him go wild. And I thought he played a great game. No turnovers. Did great in the play action game. He can run. I'm telling you, Boise State. Yeah, 23.5 is a lot, but man, I could see them feeling pretty confident coming. Got a home game here against San Diego State.
Yeah, they've got some. They're going to be big time favorites the next couple of weeks, as they're at home for San Diego State, home for Nevada, at San Jose State, and at Wyoming, who's pretty rough. And then they're going to have a pretty big game at home against Oregon State to finish things off. They're in prime position right now to make the playoffs. You got to figure they just keep the foot on the pedal, because if they can stay ranked high and keep going, they're going to make the playoffs. As their only loss this year right now is against at the time was number Oregon. 9, but is currently number 1 Oregon, and a 3-point loss at Oregon. So that looks like an even better loss now. If you look at it across the country, that's the best loss in the country right now. A 3-point loss at number 1 Oregon. So if they can hold firm and win out here, Boise State, they're going to be in the playoffs. And when you got a player like GT,
I think they can hang in. Yeah, I think they can hang with some teams, even some big teams, and that'll be exciting. I hope they do get in because I think they're one of the only non-Power 5 teams that really would have a chance to upset, one of these Power 5 teams. I mean, if they got matched up against a, Big 12 school, I don't see how they wouldn't be, pretty close to even being maybe favored against one of those schools. So
I agree with you. I mean, they're already up to number 15 in the country. I could absolutely see them if they, getting a BYU or like a
yeah,
Kansas State. I could see them being favored in one of those games.
for sure. Yeah, they're a solid team, and I mean they'd have to really kind of slip up to lose at this point the rest of the way. I think they'd have to play in their conference championship game, potentially UNLV again, which
Yep.
would be a pretty tough game. But I don't know. I just don't see him losing. That's unless injuries, whatever. Those things can get you. But they'll be a fun team to watch going forward for sure.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big threats to them was Liberty. If
Right?
Liberty went undefeated and them getting in, but them losing to Kennesaw State, I mean, they're pretty much done. I
They're
mean,
done.
they're losing to a winless Kennesaw State team. I mean, that just absolutely crushes you in the rankings. That one is just not good, not good at all. As you look at through the rankings right now, who's there, who could get in front of them? I mean, Boise State's right there. I mean, they're in the mix. And I think, if they keep winning out here, they're at 15 right now, they can get into the top 12. We still have some of these teams have some pretty tough matchups still to play. There's going to be some teams that are going to still get some losses in front of them right now that either have one loss or are undefeated. And if I just I don't think there's any way you can lose if they win out, that you can leave out a one-loss Boise State team that their only loss is at the moment to number 1 Oregon.
I don't.
That seems crazy to me.
Yeah, 100% crazy. And like I said, I think they're the only. And I don't. Is there a rule? They keep talking about. Do they have to put a non-Power 5 school in, like one out of these 12?
So basically, it was like the highest rated one gets in.
That's going to be Boise State, unless they screw up. It's going to be them. So, but yeah, and I wouldn't be shocked if Liberty lost again, honestly, before the end of the year.
I wouldn't either at the way they've played this year so far. Biggest game of the week probably is be interesting because right now this one's a tough one to pick is Penn State, Ohio State. Right now, Ohio State is a 3.5 point favorite on the road at Penn State. Over under is 45 in this one. The big question for Penn State is Drew Allar, their starting quarterback, gonna play in this game? Injured his knee last week. Right now, he's questionable to play. We kind of know how it is in college. They really don't tell you until the last moment if he's out there. I mean, they're already saying game time decision. They're obviously not going to tell anybody, especially Ohio State, whether he's going to play or not. If there's no Drew Allar in this one, man, even after Ohio State really, really did not look great last week against Nebraska, it would be hard for me not to take Ohio State in this game.
Yeah, I'm definitely leaning towards Ohio State. Neither one of these teams looked that great last week. My bet of the week was Penn State to cover the 6 over Wisconsin. They did it. But honestly, if you watch some of that game, I feel like I kind of got lucky on that one because Wisconsin had some chances, man, and they threw a big pick that kind of changed everything. Penn State was, I mean, that easily could have been a closer game. And Ohio State didn't look great last week either. But man, Ohio State needs this game bad. You know what I mean? They need this one, and I just don't see how they don't go in there. Especially if, I mean, I don't know. There's a big drop off in the quarterbacks for Penn State, but yeah, if the starter's not playing in Ohio State, this is the season. So
yeah, well, and I I tell you what, with them just kind of, it's almost like they were looking past Nebraska last week. I mean,
Yeah.
Nebraska got hammered by Indiana, and it's like they almost felt like, and they got up early in that game, and they kind of, it was like a lull all game, and you felt like there might be some of that after the loss to Oregon, how they kind of went down and lost at the end of that game by a point in a game they probably should have ended up winning. And now you get Penn State, and Penn State. Here's the thing. Franklin has not been able to beat Michigan or Ohio State. It's like Penn State every year. They've got a good record, and it's like they cannot get over the hump against either one of these teams. Ohio State knows they can't lose another one after losing to Oregon. A 2-loss Ohio State team possibly would get in. Yeah. But a win over Penn State here would be big. To me, they've got the talent over Penn State at every position, pretty much. And I think the one position that they might not have the advantage is QB, and I think it's pretty equal at quarterback. So if Drew Allar's out in this one, even with him in, I think I'm jumping on Ohio State. I think this spread gets higher. So if you're on Ohio State, I think you need to get on early because I think it's going to get bigger, especially as people get nervous later in the week about Allar playing. And even if he does play, man, if he's getting pressure on him and he can't move in the pocket with a knee injury, that makes me really nervous. I could see this being a defensive game. So the 45 is in play for me. I would lean towards the under, but both these teams have just enough talent, and I could see the defenses making plays and getting short fields. So I'm a little more nervous about that over under. I would lean the under, but I don't feel great about it.
Yeah, this feels, you kind of talked me into it even more, but this feels like Ohio State all the way to me. I know it's a road game, but the fact that this is an 11 o'clock kickoff, I think that hurts Penn State big time because if it was a night game and they were, Penn State white out and the crowd's juiced up, been tailgating all day, I mean, I just feel like the atmosphere is not going to quite be the same. Man, it feels like Ohio State to me.
I know. I think I'm leaning pretty heavy Ohio State. I got burned on them last week. I thought they were going to put it to Nebraska. They owe me this week. I think I'm going to be back on Ohio State. How about Miami Duke? Sitting at 21 right now, minus 21 for Miami, over under 55. Miami's kind of been my cover team all year. They were one of my picks of the week last week. I was like, they're going to absolutely put it to Florida State. They did. They won 36-14. If you got in early, you got the cover. If you got in there late and you waited so just before the game, you might not have covered depending on what number you got them in. Only 2 losses for Duke this year. But they lost by 10 at Georgia Tech and then losing by 1 point last week to SMU. A little surprised. I thought they played pretty good in that SMU game. I was a little surprised it was that close. I thought SMU was going to put it to them a little more than that. But I know this is a big spread, but Miami at home against Duke, they're ready to roll. Cam Ward is moved up to number 2 in the Heisman voting, or Heisman odds, I should say, behind Gabriel from Oregon right now. It's just hard for me to bet against Miami. They've had a couple close ones that they could have easily lost, but at home against Duke, who hasn't shown a ton of firepower on offense this year, I just don't think they can hang with Miami.
Yeah, I agree. 20.5, 21, whatever it ends up being. I mean, that's a lot of points because Miami tends to not, just put their foot on the throat and cover. But there's no way Duke's winning this game. They shouldn't even be 6-2. They're not as good as their record. Miami should win this game by 30, really. But I just don't trust them to do it.
I think so too, but it's crazy because they haven't. I think last week they covered against Florida State, but 3 weeks prior to that, they didn't cover any of the games prior to that this season, and they've been consistently a 3-score, 3-touchdown favorite in almost every game this year.
Yeah, they kind of seem to, play to the competition. They get it done, and they've definitely caught some luck, but I just can't. Man, I just can't lay that many points with Miami. And of course, I say that this would be the week they win by 35, but they're definitely going to beat Duke, no doubt about it.
Ole Miss, Arkansas, pretty interesting matchup here. Ole Miss comes in at 6-2. They've got to win if they're going to stay in the playoff race. Arkansas 5-3, a surprisingly sneaky good team this year. Ole Miss at Arkansas. If you would have told me 7 points earlier in the season, I said this is an Ole Miss smash. They're going to hammer them. I'm not so sure about that. No, I'm almost thinking I'm leaning taking Arkansas with the points. They're coming off a huge 58-25 win at Mississippi State. Ole Miss got a 26-14 win last week against Oklahoma. Both these teams played LSU earlier in the year. Ole Miss losing by 3, Arkansas losing by 24 points in that one. I want to be all over Ole Miss in this one, but I'm slightly leaning taking the points here with Arkansas. I think this could end up being a close game.
Yeah, I agree with you. This just feels like one of these games where Arkansas, man, they played big in some tough matchups, and Ole Miss really, since they've started playing kind of competition that is closer to their level, has not been able to run away with games. So catching a touchdown at home, Arkansas, that could be a sneaky. I'm with you. I would lean Arkansas at this one.
Yeah, they've already beat Tennessee, played Texas A&M extremely close. I've seen a lot more out of Arkansas this year than I was expecting. So I think I'm going to take the points there at home. I just think Ole Miss has just not been as impressive as they were at the beginning of the year. The last couple of weeks, they've struggled a bit, and Trey Harris is going to be questionable again. Didn't play last week, and he's really been the star of that offense. And without him, they have not looked as good. So I think I'm going Arkansas there.
Yep.
Next game up, another early game. Army, 22.5-point favorite at home against Air Force. Usually this is an absolute battle. I'm typically an Air Force guy, but man, they are bad this year. You got 1-6 Air Force against 7-0 Army. I've jumped on Army the last couple weeks as they've been 2 to 3 score favorites, and they've absolutely rolled everybody. Won by 17 last week against East Carolina to cover the 16.5-point spread. Air Force has just really struggled. I mean, they've already lost 34-7 to Navy. If I could get this down, if I can buy a point and a half, get it down to 21, I do that. But even then, I think Army just absolutely puts it to Air Force in this game. Their rushing offense has been phenomenal. Their defense has been absolutely fantastic. And this is just not the Air Force we've seen the last couple of years. Army gave up 28 points to East Carolina last week. Most points they've given up to anyone this year. Other than that, they have given up more than 2 scores in a game this year. I just don't see that happening this week, especially with an Air Force team that has really, really struggled to move the football outside of really the New Mexico game where they put up 37 and lost 52-37. Other than that, they've really struggled to score. The over-under is 41, if that tells you anything on this one. So they don't think that Air Force is going to be able to put up a lot of points either. I'm on Army in this one.
Dude, I'm on Army and I'm on the over. I mean, Army scores 40 every week. They're an absolute juggernaut. I think they're averaging 350 rushing yards a game or something crazy like that. It's like, I don't know. And Air Force isn't really any good. I mean, I guess they could, this is historically like a close game, but man, Army just rolls, man. I mean, I don't know. I'd be definitely, because if Air Force can score at all, this is probably going over. I don't know.
If you look the last 4 weeks, Army's over 40, 42, 49, 44, 45. So they've covered the over themselves the last 4 weeks in this one. So I agree with you on that one. I wouldn't even mind taking this, taking a little two pick parlay on this and taking both, take the over and take Army. I agree with you. I think Army just hammers them in this game. Air Force could maybe get a score in this one, but I think you're right. I could easily see this being like 45-7 Army.
I need to look at I guess I don't know much. Maybe Air Force has played some low scoring, like tight games, but I'm looking, it looks like they've given up.
They've given up
to some
30
teams.
plus
So,
points in a bunch of games this year. Last week against a kind of a struggling Colorado State team, they lost 21-13, but they've given up 52, 34, 31, 31 the weeks before that. And all those teams that they gave those points up to are not as good as Army is.
right. Yeah. No, I'm definitely going to be probably hopping on this as we're doing this podcast. So I hadn't really looked at this. We started talking about it, but now I'm all in on that.
Another early game that I think's interesting one that I like. Syracuse is a 4-point favorite at home against Virginia Tech. Over under is 53.5. Syracuse got absolutely hammered last week. Just unbelievable turnovers in that game. Kyle McCord had come in with only 6 picks on the year. He threw 5 interceptions. 3 of them returned for touchdowns against Pitt, as Pitt absolutely hammered them 41-13. I don't think we see that again for Syracuse. They've been pretty tough at home this year, outside of the loss at home against Stanford in a game they probably should have won. Virginia Tech is finally starting to turn it on here after a close 3-point loss to Rutgers, then lost by 4 in that really tough game. On the last, they changed that call at the end against Miami. Since then, 31-7 win over Stanford, 42-21 over Boston College, and then 21-6 against Georgia Tech. I could see where you would take Tech in this one. I think I got a bet with my heart on this one, though. I think I'm going to take Cuse to cover the +4. This feels like a field goal game to me. And so if it's, I think it's going to be a field goal game. I think Virginia Tech can win this one, but I'm going to take Cuse to cover the 4 at home.
Yeah, I like it. This is a tough matchup. I mean, these teams are pretty equal, and Syracuse, they do have a really good home field advantage, though, in that dome. So I'm with you. I think if you're going to make a bet here at all, I would definitely lean to the home team catching some points. I don't see why Syracuse couldn't win this game. I think they just, like you said, it was a turnover fest last week, which typically is not really indicative of, how the game really went. You know what I mean? So I just think Syracuse is better than that. And I'm not saying Virginia Tech's bad, but man, I feel like if this spread was Syracuse, minus a point or minus 2.5 or something, that wouldn't surprise me either. So if you're going to give me 4 at, with Syracuse at home, that's where I'm going.
Yeah, I think Syracuse getting hammered in that game last week by Pitt has swung this line.
Yeah.
I think if that they didn't just get absolutely hammered in that game,
I don't
this would be like a 1-point game.
Yeah. They wouldn't have got beat that bad if they hadn't. They just took care of the ball a little bit. It wouldn't have looked that bad, I guess is what I'm saying. So.
I mean, it's pretty much impossible to overcome 5 interceptions and a score. 3 of them returned for touchdowns in the first half. I mean, they were just getting
done.
Absolutely mauled in that game. It was brutal.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I like Syracuse here a lot.
Another early game that I like and that I'm going to be on is Memphis at UTSA, -7.5 right now. Over under is 61.5. Memphis is a team that I've liked this year. They're 7-1 coming in against a 3-5 UTSA team. UTSA just coming off a 1-point loss to Tulsa. Memphis, again, one of their closer games was that 5 points to Charlotte last week, but they beat a nice, good North Texas team by 8 earlier in the year. And then their one loss right now was a game they just could not stop Navy, and Navy beat them 56-44. I like Memphis. The fact that this is sitting around 7 points when you're 7-1 against a 3-5 team, I'm gonna buy the 0.5 point. I'm gonna take this at 7. I think Memphis can win this by double digits, but 1 touchdown, to me, is just not enough. They should be favored by more than that in this game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm leaning Memphis here. I haven't watched them a lot, but the games that I have seen, man, they look good. I know, UTSA historically is a pretty decent team, but this seems a little more lopsided than 1 touchdown. So I'm definitely leaning Memphis here. And I know because you're on DraftKings there and we're in Illinois, you're not going to show us Illinois. But what do you think about Illinois? From what I can see, I think they're a 3-point dog at home to Minnesota after getting pounded by Oregon last week. Man, that's rough.
Yep, this was the game I was just going to bring up. This is the other early game, early slate. I like Illinois. I like the points at home. I even like them in a dog parlay. I mean, Oregon put it to them. We knew that was going to be a tough game.
We knew it.
Nothing went their way in that game. Minnesota's looked nice. 3 straight wins, a 7-point win against USC, a 4-point win against UCLA, and then a 25-point win at home against Maryland last week after losses to Iowa and Michigan. Illinois came off that 1-point win against Purdue and then beat Michigan 21-7. I actually like Illinois in this game. I think they bounce back. I think this is a close game. 6-2 Illinois against 5-3 Minnesota. I feel like this is a close game. I like this is a field goal game. I think it's going to be a low scoring, tough fought game. I want to take the home team in the points if I can. I'm taking Illinois +3.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think Illinois bounces back. They got beat around a little bit last week at Oregon. You're coming off of a big win against Michigan. A little bit of a hangover there. You knew it was going to be a rough one, but I'm with you. I think they bounce back. I think we can beat Minnesota. I'm with you. I like that. We're catching some points at home. We'll see. Hopefully they do bounce back because, the fact that everybody's hopping on Minnesota and driving that line the other way is kind of crazy. I know we look bad, but I don't think we're that bad.
Yeah, I just think it's an overreaction to them just playing terrible at number one team in the country. Just came off an emotional win against Michigan. It was a lot of hope was there, but man, that game, it got off to a bad start from the beginning, and it just got ugly from there. Illinois just didn't have anything. I think they bounced back this week. Well, this is an interesting one. 11:45 Central Time game. Vanderbilt at Auburn. Right now, Vandy getting 6.5. Over under is at 48. Vanderbilt's played everyone tough. They just lost a 3-point game versus Texas, a game that was close throughout. They've already beaten Kentucky. They've beaten Alabama. They lost in overtime to Missouri. Auburn broke their losing streak with a 24-10 win at Kentucky last week. Vanderbilt has just been tough. I'm taking the points here. I'm a little shocked that they're getting almost a touchdown here. I want to take Vandy +7 in this game. I'm not sure how, other than Auburn being at home, I'm not sure how you think that Auburn's a touchdown better than Vanderbilt at this point in the year.
I don't get it either, man. Vanderbilt is a cover machine, and every week they're dogs. And I know they're going on the road, but I love their quarterback too, man. This Pavia guy, I know he's like a transfer from New Mexico or wherever he was at.
Yeah, New Mexico State is where he was at. New
Mexico State, yeah. I mean, the guy's just an absolute gamer, man. I mean, I'm telling you, you're going to give me points again with Vanderbilt. It's like, okay, we'll take it. I can see Vanderbilt winning that game.
Oh, yeah. Vanderbilt right now on DraftKings here is +195. I'm telling you, I kind of like them. I kind of like Illinois.
Yeah.
If you're going to take some dogs in Syracuse, I kind of like a little money line parlay. Syracuse, Illinois, Vanderbilt 3-team money line dog.
Get your boosts on that. That's going to be a nice one.
That one could be kind of pretty. Let's see if we built that right now, Benny. Let's see what we would look. So the only problem is we don't have Illinois here on DraftKings where we're at. So, but you get just Syracuse and Vanderbilt is +649. You get Illinois in there, you're getting that over 1,000 on a money line dog parlay. Ooh, that one's going to be one that I think we might have to get on. I like the covers. I could see myself jumping on both those bets, like taking all those teams to cover, and then also throwing a little money on a money line dog.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. We're gonna have to keep an eye on that one. That one might have to get put in before the night's out.
Yeah.
Next game we got coming up. Let me pop back down here. Indiana, 2:30 game Central Time, 7.5-point favorite at Michigan State. I tell you what, Indiana just keeps covering. Quarterback was hurt. You thought, maybe this is going to slow this team down just a bit. Well, nope. They just kept rolling and rolling. Undefeated Indiana is up to number 13 in the country. They beat Washington last week, 31-17, after taking out Nebraska 56-7 the week before. Michigan State is looking a lot better. They're coming off a big 7-point win at Michigan. I think me and you both liked them to cover last week against Michigan. And then they've also won 32-20 against Iowa. So they're playing tougher, but what do you think at home? Is Indiana still getting the points? You still think they cover here?
This one scares me a little because Michigan State has done nothing but get better the whole season, and they have some talent. They're just young, and so it's dangerous, man. This is a dangerous game. If Indiana, I think if their starting quarterback doesn't come back, I would probably lean Michigan State on this one.
My worry here on this one, Benny, is you got Indiana at home against Michigan next week, and then at Ohio State the week after.
Yeah.
Do they overlook Michigan State at Michigan State a little bit? I think they could probably still win this game, but man, I feel like Michigan State's going to be in this thing.
This one, I'm with you. I just think this is going to be that game where Indiana's going to get a real scare. They might win, but covering 7.5, I don't know. I think this is going to be a tight one.
I was going to say, I'm nervous about taking Indiana on this one. I think if I do anything, I'm taking Michigan State.
Yep.
What do you think about Oregon at Michigan? Right now, 15-point favorite is the Ducks. Over under on this one, 45. I tell you what, until Oregon really hammered Illinois last week, they've been a little rough, to tell you the truth. I mean, they've had some games where even though they're the number one team in the country, I don't know how you feel about Oregon, but until this Illinois game, they won 35-0 against a terrible Purdue team, but they took forever to score that 35 points. That was close. They kind of lucked out against Ohio State with that 1-point win. Michigan State played them pretty tough, ended up losing 31-10, but they played them tough. UCLA, it took them a while to finally blow them out. They're not good. I don't know. I know this Oregon team is I don't want to say they're super overrated, but man, I don't know. They just don't feel like the number one team in the country to me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree with everything you said, but I just cannot take Michigan. They're just
get on Michigan in this one, right?
They're just not any good, man. And it's not. They're just not good. They're injured, and I can't do it. And they very well could cover this, but man, I just can't do it. I'm staying away from this game because I'm not trusting Oregon either. So
I know it's like if I took anything, I think I'd have to take Oregon. But just the way they played recently, I mean, they came out and really put it on Illinois early, but it's the only game they've done that this year. Every other game this year has been like low scoring first half, 13-6.
I will say that they crushed Illinois up front. I mean, defense and offensive line, they just crushed them. So, I mean, if they put that much pressure on Michigan up front defensively, I could see this game getting out of hand. I could see Oregon covering easily. I just can't back Michigan. I can't.
Yeah. I can't back Michigan either. I just don't have any confidence in them.
No faith.
I mean, if I was going to do anything outside of that, if you don't like the 15 points, I'm leaning towards an under in this. It's 45. Yeah. Oregon's defense has been pretty tough this year.
Stays in it is to make it an ugly game.
Yeah. But I could even see like a 31-3 Oregon win with them putting up a couple late scores.
Yeah.
I don't think Michigan's got any type of offense. I don't think they can stay in this game. Like I said, if I did anything, and I hate taking unders, but I'd probably take the under just in case Oregon played sloppily, and won by 2 touchdowns and didn't cover the 15. But like you said, I have zero confidence in Michigan. I cannot take them at all right now.
Yep.
What do you think of this Georgia-Florida game? 16.5 right now for Georgia. Over-under is 52. Georgia's been up and down a little bit. Number 2 in the country right now. Florida has played better. I mean, they're coming off a nice 48-20 win against Kentucky. And then they, had a tough loss, 23-17 to Tennessee. Georgia, the big win. They've got the bye week. They're coming off the bye after the big win at Texas, 30-15. Yeah. I think Georgia's starting to put it together.
Yeah,
I think they roll Florida here. This is this game that you typically always play this game in Jacksonville. What is it called? The biggest cocktail party in the country, or whatever they call it. Yeah. I think Georgia puts it to Florida here. I'm taking it before it gets to 17.
Yeah, I'm with you. That Georgia should dominate this game. Like you said, they really put a great game against Texas together. Got a bye week after that. And, like you said, Florida's playing a little bit better, but I just think this is a big mismatch, man. This is these games are historically pretty close games, but this is not this shouldn't be a close game. It should be a 3-score win for Georgia.
I think so too. I'm jumping on Georgia in this one. A couple close games coming off just a 3-point win against Central Florida. This was one, last week I said Central Florida against Iowa State. That was one I was like, what's going on here? Iowa State right now is a 13.5-point favorite against Texas Tech. Texas Tech coming off 2 pretty tough losses at Baylor, 59-35. Actually, they lost that one at home, 59-35 to Baylor, and then lost at Texas Christian, 35-34. What do you think? Does Iowa State, can they stay undefeated? The currently number 11 team in the country, first place in the Big 12 at 7-0. Texas Tech 5-3, 13.5-point favorite right now is Iowa State.
I don't like it. I think Iowa State is the most overrated team in the country. I mean, there is no way they should be ranked above Indiana. I mean, there's just no way. If you put Indiana and Iowa State on a neutral and Indiana's healthy, they'd be favored maybe 10. I mean, like, to me, and I'm not saying Texas Tech is probably no good, but that's the whole problem. Like, Iowa State is so overrated. It's crazy to have them 11. And I get it, they're 7-0, but I just can't see it happening. I mean, they could cover this game, but they're going to get in the playoff and have they'll be one of those teams that gets upset,
The schedule for them is extremely weak so far. Extremely weak. I agree with you. I think this has to be one of the most overrated teams in the country. 13.5. Could they cover? I could see them covering that, but they feel like one of these teams that you're just holding your breath every week for them to get upset by somebody. Yeah. And Texas Tech has enough firepower, even though they haven't played well. They've got enough firepower that they could end up getting an upset somewhere in here. I feel like Iowa State, even though the defense has been really solid for them, and that's, I think, is really, has been good, but then they turned around and they gave up 35 last week to Central Florida. So this is a team I'm avoiding right now, unless I really feel good about taking someone to beat them in an upset. Right. I think I'm avoiding Iowa State right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'd be too scared to lay the points. I could see them getting knocked off any week here.
This has been my absolute kryptonite this season is UCLA. I think they're a terrible team, and yet they cover every week against me. The amount of money I've lost going against UCLA this year is just ungodly. It's at some point you'd say, Justin, just stop betting against them, because usually you're like, but I still think they're terrible, and I don't understand how they keep being in games. They're 6.5-point dog at Nebraska. Over under is 40, which is insanely low for a college game. I mean, whenever you're in the damn near at 40 or under in a college game, you're talking about Iowa last week style. I mean, that's just ugly. I hate to say it, but I think I'm going to do it again. I think Nebraska takes them out. I just don't understand how they keep covering week after week. They're just not it. They're 2-5. They're not a good team. my hammer of the week, I just Rutgers. They lost. They beat 35-32. They beat Rutgers. Was my only loss in my JT Parlay 6-play parlay. I still can't believe Rutgers lost that game. I had them Rutgers at the points at 6.5, and I had Rutgers in just a money line.
Yeah,
that's how good I felt about them, and they buried me.
Rutgers turned around, got waxed again this last week. So that's 3 weeks in a row where Rutgers is just. They went from looking like a really solid team to just looking like total crap.
They just have fallen apart. I think Nebraska, they played, they got hammered by Indiana, but then they played Ohio State tough last week. I think Nebraska at home, I think they win this by 7. I'm probably going to be eating my words.
I'll do it with
UCLA.
I was thinking the same thing. I mean, I saw this earlier today, and I'm thinking, man, Nebraska's less than a touchdown. I'm like, I'll take that. And then, like you said, we've really had a rough go with UCLA. So, but shoot,
they have backdoor covered like every week. Yeah. Like every week they have they should not cover, and they somehow do. It just blows my mind because I've watched them play a couple times. They're not a good team. They hadn't scored more than 17 points in a game this year, and then they put up 35 in an 11A game, or like a noon East Coast game. Come on. How does that even happen? I'm going to do it again. I'm going to be bitching about it next week on this show about how they covered again against Nebraska, but I'm taking Nebraska in this one. I don't care. I'm doing it.
Yeah. I'll roll with you.
Let's jump on some later games here. This is another one. I am shocked at this one. Navy really got spanked last week by Notre Dame. The turnovers early, everything else. This game right now is at 10.5 against Rice. What am I missing in this one, baby? This is a 6-1 Navy team against a 2-6 Rice team. This one has me confused. I don't understand why this is only a 10-point game when Navy's literally been just smoking people all season until last week, which we knew. I mean, we knew that Notre Dame game was going to be tough, and Notre Dame 51-14, they absolutely put it to them. I don't see this game at all with Rice. I don't know how Rice stays in this one. I think Navy rolls them.
I'm with you. I don't get it. I think, it was they went up against a team that was better and they got beat pretty bad. But I mean, everything up to that game was Navy all the way. It's not like their season's over just because they lost to, Notre Dame. They can still win their conference. And I just think they go right back to doing what they were doing prior to that Notre Dame game. I don't see why they wouldn't. The fact that I'm not getting this one, the fact that it's down to 10.5, unless something's changed with Rice, it makes me nervous because of,
I mean, I'm looking at his Navy's quarterback hurt. Like, what is going on? Like, I'm going to have to do some digging into that, because if there's no major injury for Navy, that makes no sense to me. I just feel like you have to hammer that Navy against Rice there.
I'm with you, unless there's something we don't know, which is possible. But yeah, that's a real fishy one with that 10.5.
Let's jump into some later games, kind of make our way down here to some of the late action. Texas A&M number 10, 7-1 at South Carolina, 4-3 right now. A&M a 2.5-point favorite. Over under on that one's 44. South Carolina has been a tough team at home. They just looked really good, beating Oklahoma 35-9 at Oklahoma. Tough 2-point loss against Bama. They lost by 3 to LSU. So South Carolina's been in every game this year. A&M so far, after the opening loss to Notre Dame, has run off 7 in a row. Nice win over Arkansas. Absolutely dominated Missouri. Kind of an ugly game at Mississippi State, only won by 10 and then won by 15 last week at home against LSU. This one is tough for me. I think I'm staying away from this game. South Carolina's played everyone tough, but at 2.5, I don't love it. Mm-hmm. If it was a bigger spread, if this was closer to 6, I think I'd be all over South Carolina. because
Yeah.
they've been so good at home this year. But this one's, to me, 2.5 is right about where I don't want to be betting this one. And I just don't have total confidence in Texas A&M that they go in and win this one for sure. So I think I'm avoiding this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think that's exactly why the line is what it is, because it's like everybody could see South Carolina pulling off an upset here, but that's, it's a coin toss, man. I think A&M has played really well, and they could go in there and win that thing, but you don't trust them to necessarily, just go in there and win it without trouble. So I'm with you. I'm staying away. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it'll be a really good game.
Yeah, that's one thing. I think I could see either going either way. This one is just I'll watch the game, but I don't feel confident putting money either way on that one. What about Clemson at home against Louisville? 11-point favorite is Clemson right now, over under 63. Clemson's really kind of turned it up ever since that season opening loss to Georgia. They've looked a lot better. The offense has been piling up points. They've scored over 44 out of the last 5 games. The only game they didn't was at FSU when they scored 29. Louisville, nice win over BC last week after a tough 7-point loss to Miami. 4-point win over Virginia. Every game they've had has been a 1-score game this year. I like Clemson to win this game. I'm not sure I like the minus 11. Louisville's played everyone tough. I think this is a 1-score game. But I don't know if I feel so good about Louisville that I'm taking the points at 11. If I did anything, I'm probably taking the points just because they've just been in every game this year.
Yeah, no, Louisville has played everyone tough. This is probably another game I'm going to stay away from just because, again, I think the line's probably about right. Clemson could easily win this game by, 14 points. But, man, Louisville has really – they've played everyone down the wire. So I could see that going this way again this week. So I'm probably staying out of this one. Again, it's just kind of like the A&M game where it's going to be a good game to watch. But I'm probably not putting anything in on it. So
last couple games here, the night games, Wisconsin, Iowa is a 3-point game. I'm staying off of that game. USC at Washington. USC right now is a 2.5-point favorite. That one has got me nervous. Neither of those teams have looked great. Tennessee at home against Kentucky, 16.5. Earlier in the year, Tennessee's offense was rolling, and then they've really kind of struggled a bit. They're coming off the bye week after a really nice 7-point win against Alabama. Do they have enough to turn it up and win by 3 scores? Kentucky's defense has been pretty tough this year. They've come into some injuries lately and struggled a bit here of late. I don't know if I trust Tennessee to win by 17. I think they definitely should win this game. I just don't know with the way they've been playing lately. I could see it happening, but I'm not sure if the odds are there right now. Do you trust Tennessee at all?
I don't know. I guess what I don't trust really though is Kentucky. It's like, which team are you going to get? Are you gonna get the team that played, Georgia down to the wire and played great defense? And because if that Kentucky team shows up, I don't see Tennessee's covering this game. But if the team that showed up last week shows up, Tennessee should roll. So I don't know. It's a tough one.
Yeah, I think I got to avoid this one because again, there's just too many unanswered questions in this one. I can't jump on this game with confidence, so I think I'm staying away from this one. The best game of the night in the night slate is Pittsburgh, number 18 against number 20 SMU. Pittsburgh comes in at 7-0, SMU at 7-1, coming off a nice, tough 1-point victory at Duke. We talked about Pittsburgh already, rolling Syracuse with that great defensive effort in that one. Again, a little iffy on the schedules from both these teams. This one is a tough one for me. I'm leaning SMU to win this game. I don't like it that it's over a touchdown. I think Pittsburgh at this point, if I was taking it, I'd take Pittsburgh plus 7.5 because I think SMU wins this by 3 points or 7 points, somewhere in that range. I think they win by a score. I'm not sure they win by double digits.
I'm with you, man. I think this should be almost a pick 'em type game.
I'm surprised the spread's as high, isn't it? It seems a little high.
It seems a little high. I know SMU's at home. But if you look at their schedules, like you said, it's kind of iffy for both teams. Pittsburgh's been on kind of a roll. And yeah, to me, this is a coin toss. So give me the points. I'll take Pittsburgh and the points if you're going to give them to me, So.
All right. So here for the last couple minutes of the show here, as we're coming up on the hour, Benny, have you been thinking about your Plums bet of the week? I'm kind of looking like I might have to build my JT Parlay play of the day here. We'll bring that up. My JT Parlay play of the day. Let's build this thing in real time, as I didn't have one totally set going into this one. I tell you what I'm liking. I'm liking the all dog Illinois. Illinois, Vanderbilt, and what was our other?
Illinois, Vandy, and
who else did I have in there? Who was it? Was my third underdog team I like to win. Oh, Syracuse.
Right,
so
Syracuse.
Illinois, Vandy, Syracuse was. I like that. It's my JT Parlay play of the day. If you want to go something plus 1,000, if you take the 3 dogs all to win on the money line, I like that. Also, I was gonna look in here. I'm telling you what, I like Army. I'm liking Army, so I'm gonna take that one. I'm liking Ohio State. Sorry, gone from 3.5 to 3. I'm liking Ohio State
as well.
Army, Ohio State. I'm telling you, I like Memphis against UTSA. I might buy a half point to get that one to 7, but I definitely like that one. I'm liking Georgia over Florida. I think they win by 3 scores in that one. I'm taking Nebraska 6.5. I told you that one's going to be the one that ends up burying me because UCLA covers every freaking time. And I'm taking Navy. I think Navy over Rice is the play there. So that's going to be my 6-leg parlay. You put that one up there. It's plus 45.86. Everybody knows my JT Parlay play of the day is always a wild one. It's a big one. We've been right there every week, right up against it. So if you're on DraftKings right now, you can get that at plus 45.86. If you wait till Saturday, you can probably get a boost on that. I'll run it down for everybody that's not watching but's listening on the podcast. I've got Army minus 22.5, Ohio State minus 3, Memphis minus 7.5, Georgia minus 16.5, Nebraska 6.5, and Navy 10.5. If anything, I'm going to buy a half a point on Memphis to get it down to a touchdown and get Navy half a point to get it down to 10. But if I take them straight up, you can get that 6-leg parlay plus 45.86 currently on DraftKings.
Okay, I was leaning Ohio State as my pick. Penn State covered for me on the road last week. I think I'm 4-3 on the Plums picks. But since you put them in your parlay, and I was going to be on them anyway, I'm going to do Nebraska. We talked about it. Let's take Nebraska against UCLA, and let's do it. I think
we got to get a cover against UCLA. We got to get a cover against UCLA. It's got to happen. I hammered at the beginning of the year. That was one of my bets, was the under UCLA 4.5 wins this year. They're sitting at 2 wins right now. Need them to keep losing, but we also need them to stop freaking covering. So I like that. So the Benny, I feel it deep in my Plums pick of the week is Nebraska minus 6.5 at home against UCLA. That's going to do it for us tonight. Thanks for everybody for watching. If you haven't liked and subscribed and hit that notification bell, please do that for the Stew with JT Brew. Also, all our gracious hosts, Fantasy and Frames, check them out. Shows all week on Fantasy and Frames. Great action. Everything you want was gambling, redraft, all kinds of Dynasty, fantasy, and even hockey. We got our hockey show that we're doing Tuesday night around the ice before me and Benny get this show underway on Tuesday late nights on the college football bet. Thanks to everybody for joining us tonight. We had a blast hanging out with you. Check us out next week where we'll be back late night Tuesday night again for the Stew with JT Brew and our college football bets. Check you guys next time.
You up on trades and why you move? You ain't designed to lose. Find you jumping over seemingly nothing, racking up points, makes the game a little more fun to watch. Can drop release. We started with the mock draft and now we making a mockery of the leaderboard. Quite obviously not a scrub, so start an institute. Make evaluations like a commissioner do. It's to the point your wife make you watch in a different room. Update your roster and pick and choose when you get some news. Not much that we enjoy more than sipping through, sifting through new statistics to make it to our end zones through different routes. Universities, institutes, down to homies who click in groups. I introduce you to the Stew with JT Brew.